I'm catching hypothermia. Worst I freaking feel in the world. Where they pull the fluid off my lungs, and they pulled a liter off the right lung. Hello, YouTube family. I'm back after so many years. Forgive me for that. Excuse the way I look right now, but I just had surgery yesterday. I had a pain pump installed, so I'm recovering from that. So before I get into what I'm using instead of chemo right now, I kind of want to give you the backstory. How I got started doing my nails and wanting to do videos about it is I've been sitting around not knowing what to do with my time for some months now, since I haven't been working since October, I believe, if that's the 10th month. I have not been able to work, so I have been laying around literally every single day, and I have tried to come up with multiple things to do. I've made keychains, started doing friendship bracelets. I don't know, there's a list of things, but here we are months later, and I said, well, you know, why don't I just start trying to do my nails again? And it wasn't very pretty when I first started. They were horrible looking, but it's been a long time since I've been doing them professionally. Let's see, I want to say about 24 years. And then once I got a good clientele of hair, I didn't do nails anymore. I couldn't really wear nails anymore because when you're doing a lot of hair, you're constantly shampooing, and your hands are just always in water, and so nails don't really last long. And I just didn't feel like trying to keep them up, and they would snag on hair when they would start lifting. And when I really wanted to, you know, look nice or something, I would do the gel colors. That was great. They last longer than nail polish, and I would keep those on for about a week, and before they start lifting and catching in people's hair. But so I wouldn't do that often. I would just do that occasionally. I couldn't find anything that would last on my nails, really. But I'm gonna tell you, this polygel stuff, oh man, it is the best thing ever. I've never found anything that is hard, keeps my nails protected. I've never found a product that doesn't lift. This has been the best product I've ever used. I can't use acrylic right now because fighting cancer, I don't want to use chemicals on my a lot of chemicals on my skin. I know you can't keep away from every type of chemical, but I try my best. I only use natural homemade soaps. I only put oil on after my shower. I wear natural deodorant. Okay, so let's talk about this cancer. I've been actually sick for a while. I want to say I got diagnosed in December 2022, but I was sick for months prior to, from in May. Since May 2022, I was in the hospital back and forth, because March is when I first got sick, where I was coughing quite a bit, and I really thought it was because I had went on this kayaking night kayaking trip. It was only like about an hour long, but it was so cold. I fell in the water. It was a horrible experience. I will never night kayak again. And I'm cold. I'm shivering. My fingers are going numb. So let's get the hell out of here. I'm catching hypothermia. Worst I freaking feel in the world. I see headlights. I'm about to wave somebody down and tell me to give me right back. But after that, I ended up with a cough, and it kept getting worse. And I ended up going to the hospital and finding out I had COVID. Then from that, it progressively got worse. I went into the hospital again, still had COVID, but this time, and this is like a month later, I had COVID pneumonia. And I was having a very hard time breathing. It was with my first time ever having pneumonia, so that was a new experience. I couldn't lay down at night to sleep without having a hard time breathing. I ended up having to get on these inhalers, breathing treatments at work. Somebody would spray something and I'd have to use the inhaler and cough. Sometimes I would throw up after coughing so much. Nothing was working. The breathing treatment seemed like it would give me a little bit of relief, but it just kept getting worse. And it seems like every time I was around people with cologne, perfumes on, at work, any chemical that was sprayed, I couldn't inhale it without having a serious reaction. And this went on for months. So my lungs were progressively getting worse. I was in and out of hospital, and they kept doing multiple x-rays and CAT scans. I just had a thoracentesis done a week ago, where they pull the fluid off my lungs, and they pulled a liter off the right lung, and then half a liter off the left lung this time. So I'm still recovering from that. After going to the hospital so many times and so many tests, and they couldn't figure out what was going on with my lungs because I didn't have COVID anymore. And I was still trying to live my life regularly. I had to quit my boxing class. I had just began a month prior, and that was something I felt really good about. It was giving me better confidence, and I was just at a different place in my life. I felt like I was finally finding myself. And I was finding joy in myself, finally in my singleness, which was really hard for me to do prior. And I was just living a great life finally. I had my own home. I was always doing outside activities. I was, swimming, kayaking, hiking. I love the water, so I was doing, beach trips at least once or twice a year. And I was still trying to do all this while I was having issues with my lungs. And that became more and more difficult till I will speed things up I will say the last trip I did was a camping trip. But 2 trips prior to that, I tried to go to Vegas with my friend. I could barely walk around with her. And then the next trip I tried to going to the beach with another friend. I could barely walk around. We rode bikes. Could barely do that. I had to keep using an inhaler constantly. I was so out of breath. Could barely talk at times. Um, so this last trip was a camping trip, and I could barely walk up this little tiny slope so I could go use the bathroom. I was heaving so bad. I was I was calling on the Lord because I could barely make it. Um, almost peed on myself multiple times trying to get to that bathroom, not being able to breathe. And the friends I went, she was a coworker too. The friends I went with, she was like, Bianca, you're getting worse. And I don't know. I think I was just in denial. She kept on telling me I was just getting worse, and I didn't want to believe it. I was like, no, it's just long haul COVID. They say this is just what happens. It'll eventually, go away. It'll get better. You know, um, and then I don't know. It was after the camping trip. I started to kind of think about what she was saying that night because when I was sitting outside my tent, um, I started coughing and then I threw up. And I was just like, you know what, this is something's wrong. I'm really, so I decided, you know, she might be right, but it wasn't until the next day when we went to work, and I couldn't even do a haircut. We were working at a haircutting place, so I was a manager there for 2 years. Um, when this was all happening. So when after the camping trip, I was trying to do a haircut and I just couldn't catch my breath. Every time somebody would walk by with any type of smell on them, any type of chemical smell, deodorant, lotion, anything, I would go into what felt like an asthma attack and couldn't breathe, would throw up. And after so many of those episodes, that day after camping, I said I couldn't do this anymore. And I remember I remember this day more plainly as more than any of the others, because this was October 3rd. And I said, I'm going to the hospital and I'm not coming back to work. Once I got insurance, they recommended me to a specialist for the lungs, and she's the one that got me on oxygen because my oxygen levels were going down into the 80s. Um, and I couldn't barely make it upstairs anymore, and I had stairs in my home. I was having to stop on each step and catch my breath. You just don't know what's going to happen at this point. You don't have a job. You don't know if you're going to be able to work ever again. It's just like a whirlwind of thoughts going on, and it was just a very difficult space to be in my mind and physically. And I was alone, in my home, and I remember crying so hard at church one day because I was just like, I am so alone, Lord. You're a prisoner. That's the best way, but just a prisoner in your own home, in your own body, because you can't do the things that you want to do, that you're used to doing. And that's an awful feeling. You can't really, you don't understand it until you go through it, you know. But so that's the place I was in, and I ended up meeting this guy friend or whatever, and it didn't go anywhere, but it served its purpose, I guess, at the time. He was really helpful while I was going through this transition. He helped me with like moving stuff in my home. My family came over and helped move all of my stuff into boxes and to get ready, put it in a U-Haul box. I got rid of a lot of stuff because I finally got a contract onto the house. I didn't know what was going to happen at this point because of my health. It was like a faith step every step of the way. It was a faith step. Sold my house, and then I had to um, temporarily. The plan was just to go live with my mom um, temporarily, until I get my RV and live in my RV because that was the plan all along. But then what ended up happening was um, while in transition of moving out of my home and moving in with my mom, I stayed at my sister's house for a couple nights, and I woke up the next morning. It was something to that extent. It was like the night before I felt like I couldn't breathe well, or it was getting worse, and then in the morning, um, I felt like there was an elephant on my chest, and I couldn't catch my breath. Felt like my bra was squeezing the life out of me, and I couldn't even barely call for my sister's help. It took all the strength in me to take a breath in and call her name. I couldn't press numbers on the phone because I was panicking because I couldn't breathe. And when she came to my rescue, and she called 911, and I told her that I motioned like I was trying to get I motioned I was trying to get my bra off, and she helped me get my bra off so I could breathe. And the ambulance came. They took me to the hospital. I don't know. I was in front of the mirror, and I just took the braids, and I just started cutting them out at the root. Dog deworming medicine, and he was told by his vet about it.